Hello my friends, today we're learning Baba Basra Daf Tzadik Vov. We're going to start Daf Tzadik Hayomi base from the dot, second about 5 lines up. Omar of Yuda. Yain Nimko Barchanus, wine that gets sold in the shop that we said that's a very weak wine, that's not the best wine. Even though that's not very good wine, you make a bracha bar priagofen. Rav Chizda Omar Gabi Chamra de Akrim Lomeli, wine that went bad. Why do you make a bracha bar priagofen? No, you need to make shakol. So we have a machloikis between Rav Chizda and Rav Yuda. Do you make on such type of wine shakol or bar priagofen? Said the Gemara, Meisivei ala pas she'ifsho, on bread that went bad, valayayin she'ikrim, wine that went wrong, val tafshil avrotrosoi, on a dish that went bad, oime shakol niobidvori. It says clearly, they say shakol, not bar priagofen, so it's a kash on Rav Yuda. Omar of Zvid, Moider of Yuda, bepur tzimo de mizban akarnata. So we're saying there's two types of wine that goes bad. If it went bad a little bit, on such a case, Rabbi Yuda said, you say bar priagofen. And the brisa that we brought that says the wine that goes bad, you say shakol, it's so much wine that gets sold in the streets, not in the shop, that's even worse. And such a wine you make shakol, but wine that Rav Yuda was talking about, it's a bit of a better wine and you make bar priagofen. Omale Abaye Rav Yosef. Abaye asked Rav Yosef, Hor Rav Yuda. Rav Yuda hold, you say bar priagofen. Hor Rav Chizda hold, you say shakol nemidvoroi. Man keman tzvirle, who do you hold like? Omale masnisin yadana. So Rav Yosef told to Abaye, I have a brisa. And from there I could see why I hold. And he didn't tell him more than that, and he just told him the brisa. And the Gemara is going to discuss what do we see from the brisa. Said the Gemara Daf Tzadik Vav Amud Aleph. The Tanya, it says in the brisa, Aboide kesachavis, someone who checks a barrel of wine to see if it's good or not, because he wants to be mafresh from this barrel of wine whenever he has truma maisa to give on wine, so he's going to be mafresh on this chavis. So he checked the wine to see if it's good. Lios mafresh oleh truma v'oilech, and he went. And then a few months later, we find out that this barrel of wine is vinegar. So it says a brisa, kol gimel yoim vaday. The 3 days it's for sure. Mikan ve'elach sofik. From here onward it's a sofik. And the brisa doesn't really explain what 3 days. The first 3 days after he checked it, the last days before when he found out there was choimetz. So the Gemara is going to explain. Said the Gemara, my koma, what does this brisa mean? So we have a machloikes, what's pshat in the brisa? Omar Rabbi Yochanan Ochi Kama, this is pshat in the brisa. Kol gimel yomim arishonim, the first 3 days after you checked it, if you're mafresh, then truma on those days, vadayayin, it's for sure wine. Mikan ve'eloch, from 3 days onwards until you found that was choimetz, sofik, we have a sofik if it was wine or choimetz, because you can't be mafresh choimetz on wine, the fishitas Rebbe. Said the Gemara, my time, and what's pshat in the svara, how Rabbi Yochanan is explaining the brisa? Chamra, wine, meiloi okar, gets ruined from the top. It starts getting ruined from the top of the barrel. Vahai teime, this guy who checked it, v'loi okar, and it didn't get ruined because it was good wine. Im tim tzeloima botha de teime okar, what are you going to tell me? Maybe after he tasted it became vinegar? Avereiche chala v'tami chamra, it takes 3 days to get ruined, and the first 3 days it just has a smell of vinegar, but it still has a taste of wine, and in that time, because it has a taste of wine, it's still considered wine, and therefore the truma is chal. The kol reiche chala v'tami chamra, any time when the smell is of vinegar and the taste is wine, chamra, we look at it as wine. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi argues and he explains the brisa in a different way. Kol gimel yom achroinim vaday. Choimetz. When it says in the brisa that the 3 days is for sure and otherwise it's a sofik, I mean the last 3 days before you checked it and the last time that you found the vinegar, then it's for sure choimetz. Mikan v'lahalon, earlier than those 3 days, sofik, we have a sofik, maybe it's choimetz, maybe it's wine. My time, and what's a svara? Chamra, wine, mitatoy oka, gets ruined from the bottom. Ve'emo oka v'lavadate, maybe when he tasted it already, it was already considered vinegar, because the bottom was already getting ruined, only the top was still good, and therefore it was already vinegar, and already straight away a second afterwards we're in a sofik. And even if you're going to tell me that gets ruined from the top and not from the bottom of the barrel, he tasted it a few months ago and it wasn't vinegar, Dilma maybe, a second after he tasted it, okay, it got ruined. Avereiche, chala, and the smell was vinegar, v'tamei chamra, and even though that the taste is wine, Rabbi Shua ben Levi holds, v'reiche chala v'tamei chamra, in such a case, chala, it's still considered vinegar. So we have a machlokes over here in a case where wine tastes like wine but smells like vinegar. Rabbi Yochanan says we look at it as wine, and Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shua ben Levi holds it's vinegar. The Roimoi Masnu, the Amoraim from the south, they learn different Mishmei de Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rishonim vadayayin, Achroinim vaday choimetz. Emtzoim sofek. At the beginning it's for sure wine, the first 3 days for sure wine, the last 3 days is for sure choimetz, and the middle, all in between that, is a sofek. So the Gemara hog ufakashi, it doesn't make any sense. Omar Rishonim vadayayin. It's for sure wine, al mareiche chala, if the smell is of vinegar, v'tamei chamra, and the taste is wine, chamra we look at it as wine. V'alda omris, and afterwards he said the opposite, achroinim vaday choimetz, al mareiche chala v'tamei chamra, chala. So it's a contradiction. Again, does the Rimoy hold that the taste of wine and the smell of choimetz is considered wine or choimetz? It contradicts each other. If we look at the first 3 days for sure wine, so that means you consider wine. And if the last 3 days is for sure choimetz, we consider choimetz. So the Gemara, going to ashka chala siftika. When you found it and you checked it, it's toma, when you checked it at the end and it was vinegar, it was very, very strong vinegar. The ilav the okat Daf Hayomi, if not 3 days before that it became vinegar already, if it wasn't 3 days before that already choimetz, now that when you checked it wouldn't be very strong vinegar, it would be weak vinegar. Elamai, we could see that it was for sure vinegar already 3 days ago. Something more command pashatlei. So Abai asked Rabbi Yosef, what's the din? Do you say bar priagofen or do you say shakon bidvarei? And Rabbi Yosef said, look, I have a brisa, but he never explained what he sees in the brisa. So the Gemara wants to understand, did he try to bring a raya like Rabbi Yochanan? Like Rabbi Yochanan that you say bar priagofen, or like Rabbi Shua ben Levi that you say shakon bidvarei? Something more pligi bother the machlokes Amoraim on it. Rav Mori v'Rav Zvid Chadomar Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yosef meant to say I'm going like Rabbi Yochanan, that even though that smells like vinegar, since the taste is wine, you still say bar priagofen. The Chadomar, one of these Amoraim said Rabbi Shua ben Levi. No, the Rabbi Yosef want to bring a raya for Rabbi Shua ben Levi that when it smells like vinegar and it tastes like wine, you say shakon bidvarei. Itmar, we learned a similar thing about wine going off. Reuven sold to Shimon a barrel of wine, and now it got bad. It became vinegar afterwards. Omarav, kol gimel yomim rishonim. If it happened in the 3 days after he sold it to him, b'rishus moicha. The moicha has to take a chrais because he sold him bad wine. Mikan ve'eloch. If it happened after 3 days, b'rishus loikeach. It's the loss of the loikeach. Daf Tzadik Vav Beis Shmuel argues and says, Chamra katva de mare shava. Really, it could be Reuven sold Shimon very good wine, and because Shimon was carrying the wine and shake the wine, so therefore the wine went vinegar, and therefore it's Shimon's achrayis, the seller. It's none of his responsibility. Says the Gemara, Ovad Rav Yosef Uvda Kavosei de Rav, he passed in like Rav Beshichro when it came to beer that someone sold and it got ruined in the first 3 days, and he said that he has to pay him back new beer. The Kavosei de Shmuel Bechamer, when it came to wine and it got ruined in the first 3 days, he passed in like Shmuel that he doesn't have to pay. It's not his responsibility. So the Gemara Ve'ilchas Kavosei de Shmuel, the halacha is like Shmuel, that at least by wine, because that's where Shmuel spoke, that even if it got ruined in the first 3 days after the sale, it's not the responsibility of the seller. Ton Rabbanon, Echot Sechot Tomim, Tmorim, if you make beer, alcohol out of dates, Echot Sechot Soirim, if you made beer out of barley, Vechot Shimur Yain, if you poured in the little bit what's left on the wine, the bottom of the bottle, you poured water in it, and then now you have a drink. Mevarchim aleim on all these things, sha'akon niya bidvarei. And you don't say bar priadoma or bar priagofen. Acherim omrim, they argue and say shmorim shesh boim taim yain. If you poured in the settlement, I think it's called, of the grapes, you poured in water and now it has a taste of wine, you do make, it is considered wine and you make bar priagofen. They both say together, even if it tastes like wine, you still say shako nir bidvorei. Omarova, the kule alma, everyone agree, Roma tilsa, if you put 3 parts of water into the shmorim of grapes, v'osar ba, and came out 4. That means from the shmorim came out more. You put in 3/4 of a liter, and now you have a liter. Chamru, it's considered wine. Why? Rava letamei goes with Rava Shita. Doma Rava kol chamra, every wine. Deloi dori al klas. Al-Chad Klas Maya, they never put on one portion 3 portions of water. Lav Chamra, it's not considered wine, and therefore if you put in here 3/4 of a liter, and now you have, because out of these settlements came out another 1/4 of a liter, so it came out from the grapes, so you have here wine 1/4, 3/4 water, and that's considered good wine. Roma, continues Rava, Roma Tilsa, if you poured 3 portions of water of Osa Tilsa, and only 3 portions came out, everyone agrees that that's water, and you make shakon bidvorei. Keep pligi, when is the machloikis in the brisa between Acherim and the Tanakama? The Roma Tilsa, you put in 3/4 of water, the Osa Tilsa palgan came out 3/4, and another 1/2 came out. Durabonon Savri Talse Ayil, he put 3 portions of water, talsinofik. Came out 3, that's water. Pashli palga, there's another 1/2, upalga beshita palgi, and it comes out that you have 1/4 in 6 1/4 of wine of liquid. Maya, that's water. V'loi klumu, and you make, it's not considered wine, and you make shakol. V'acherim will argue savri tlasa oil. He put in 3. Trinu palga nafik. Really, only 2.5 came out of water. Pishle kuza was left in a kuza inside the pieces of grapes. The kuza betray upalga chamra malyu, and since you have 1 full quarter in 2.5 quarters, 1/4 of wine and 2.5 quarters of water, it's considered wine because we look at what's left in as part of the water that's left in. And therefore it's great wine, and therefore you make boyer priagofen and not shakon bidvara, and that's how Rabbi explains the machloikis between Tanakama and Acherim. Thank you very much. We should all be blessed and have good achonis for Rosh Hashanah, and should be zoicha for Bimamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu very, very soon. Thank you very much.